Disclaimer. All stories are based on public reports as of December 7th, 2025. Inclusion is not endorsement. Allegations are not proven facts. Full sources, plus links in the downloadable file below the video. Verify independently. Informational use only. Hey beautiful people, welcome or welcome back to the channel. If you ever had that gut feeling that the news you're being fed every day is only 10% of the real story, you're not crazy. You're not paranoid. You're just awake. Today, December 7th, 2025, the world gave us 30 major events in a single 24-hour cycle. 10 of them were blasted on every screen and every notification. 10 were whispered once and then buried. And 10 were actively erased, censored, or ridiculed before most people even knew they existed. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to lay out all 30 exactly as they happened, with sources, dates, and zero spin, so you can see for yourself how 3 completely different planets are being broadcast to us at the same time, while we're told there's only one.
This is the most important video we have ever made, and we are honestly grateful, truly from the bottom of our hearts, that you clicked on it. Whether you're one of the Day One family or this is the first time YouTube has ever dropped you here, thank you. We thank you for caring enough to want the full picture. If you get even a fraction of the value out of this that we got putting it together, do us a huge favor. Smash that like button right now. It really does help more people see the truth. Hit subscribe and the little bell so you never miss an update, and please, please drop a comment below. Tell us which of these 30 stories shocked you the most, which one you'd never even heard of, or just say, we are here for the real news. We constantly read every single comment, and it means the world to us. All right, deep breath. Let's pull back the curtain together. Here are the 3 worlds we all lived through today, and only one of them is allowed to be called reality. 3 worlds, only one day, the 7th of December 2025, and we begin.
3 worlds, one day, the complete panorama of December 7th, 2025. The first world, the official spectacle. The 10 stories every major outlets insist are the only ones that matter today. Goa nightclub inferno claims 25 lives. A roaring fire tore through the packed Birch by Romeo Lane nightclub in North Goa late Saturday night, killing at least 25 partygoers and injuring 6 others. Terrified survivors described flames spreading within seconds as emergency exits remained locked or blocked. Prime Minister Narendra Modi immediately called the Goa Chief Minister, announced Rs2 lakh compensation for the families of the dead, and ordered a high-level probe into fire safety violations, a ritual response that has followed every similar tragedy in India for decades. 7.0 earthquake rocks Alaska. A powerful magnitude 7.0 earthquake struck just off the coast near Yakutat, Alaska, on December 6th, sending shockwaves felt as far as Anchorage and Whitehorse, Canada. More than 20 significant aftershocks followed through the night, but miraculously no fatalities or major structural damage were reported. The event served as another reminder that the Pacific Ring of Fire remains relentlessly active.
Trump administration brands Europe on brink of civilizational erasure. The incoming Trump administration released a draft national security strategy that accuses Europe of undergoing deliberate civilizational erasure through mass migration and woke ideology and bureaucratic overreach. The document explicitly calls the European Union an anti-democratic superstate and warns that the continent is committing demographic and cultural suicide. German officials denounced the language as Nazi-era rhetoric recycled for American domestic consumption, while Brussels demanded an immediate retraction. Markets price in 90% chance of Fed rate cut. The US dollar weakened and Treasury yields dipped after Friday's jobs data came in softer than expected. Traders now assign a 90% probability to a 25 basis point Federal Reserve rate cut on December 10th, with consumer sentiment collapsing to 53.3, the lowest since the 2022 inflation peak. Wall Street closed marginally higher on the hope that cheaper money will postpone a widely feared hard landing. Hong Kong student arrested for petitioning over deadly fire. University student Miles Kwan was arrested on sedition charges after launching an online petition calling for an independent inquiry into a November housing estate fire that killed 159 residents in Tai Po. Authorities claim the petition incited hatred against the government at a time of national mourning. The arrest has reignited global debate about the death of free expression under Hong Kong's national security law.
Kilauea volcano erupts again in Hawaii. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano roared back to life with spectacular lava fountains reaching hundreds of feet into the night sky. While the eruption is currently confined to the summit caldera and poses no immediate threat to communities, scientists warn that a shift in activity could change that within hours. Sudan's RSF launches fresh assault on Khartoum. The paramilitary Rapid Support Forces mounted a surprise offensive on remaining government-held districts of Khartoum, using drones and heavy artillery in street-by-street fighting. The attack marks the most serious escalation in Sudan's 2.5-year civil war since the fall of Port Sudan, further dimming hopes for mediated peace. Netflix acquires Warner Bros. Discovery in $72 billion mega deal. Netflix officially closed its blockbuster acquisition of Warner Bros. Discovery, instantly creating the world's largest entertainment conglomerate, with control over HBO, CNN, DC Comics, and the Max streaming platform. Shares of the combined entity surged 6.3% as Wall Street celebrated the end of the streaming wars and the birth of a near monopoly. Indigo chaos. Over 400 flights cancelled across India. Technical glitches and crew shortages forced India's largest carrier, Indigo, to cancel more than 400 domestic and international flights over the weekend, stranding tens of thousands of passengers. Indian Railways hurriedly added dozens of special trains, with the Civil Aviation Ministry promising normalcy by December 10th.
Architect Frank Gehry dies at 96. Frank Gehry, the Canadian-American visionary who gave the world the titanium waves of Guggenheim Bilbao and the billowing steel of Walt Disney Concert Hall, passed away peacefully at his California home. CBS Sunday Morning aired an hour-long tribute featuring never-before-seen archival footage of the Pritzker Prize winner sketching on napkins into masterpieces. The Second World, the systematically buried. 10 stories that appear once, then are quietly disappeared. U.S. police kill record, 1,365 people in 2024. Independent trackers confirmed that American law enforcement officers killed 1,365 civilians in 2024, the highest annual total ever recorded, and nearly 4 human beings every single day. Black Americans remain 3 times more likely to die than white Americans, yet the milestone received less national airtime than a single NFL controversy. Generative AI distorts news 45% of the time. A major BBC-commissioned European study found that large language models such as ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini misrepresent, fabricate, or omit key facts in 45% of news summaries they generate. Researchers warned of an impending epistemic collapse, but the study itself was barely covered outside specialist journals. Workplace deaths surge with stark racial disparities. Thousands of U.S. workers continue to die or suffer life-altering injuries on the job each year, with Black and Latino workers dying at significantly higher rates. Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers contradict state OSHA records by wide margins, yet no congressional committee has demanded reconciliation.
American hospitals routinely deny postpartum mental health care. Investigative reports revealed that major U.S. hospital chains systematically deny or severely limit inpatient psychiatric care for new mothers suffering severe postpartum depression or psychosis, citing insurance and bed shortages. At the same time, phantom nitrates in municipal water systems are increasingly linked to childhood cancers, another story that flares briefly and dies. Big Tech quietly hires dozens of intelligence veterans. Google, Meta, Microsoft, and TikTok have recruited scores of former CIA, NSA, Mossad, GCHQ, and Unit 8200 officers into senior trust and safety and content moderation roles, effectively placing intelligence community alumni in direct control of global information flows. UN Cybercrime Treaty adopted in secret on Christmas Eve 2024. The United Nations General Assembly quietly passed a new cybercrime treaty that requires signatories, including the U.S., can use to demand user data across borders with minimal oversight. Civil liberties groups call it the most dangerous digital surveillance instrument ever created. Mainstream coverage was almost non-existent.
10 forgotten humanitarian catastrophes kill tens of thousands. CARE International released its annual 10 most underreported humanitarian crises list, highlighting silent catastrophes in Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Mali, Yemen, Sudan, and 5 other countries where famine, war, and disease are killing thousands weekly with virtually zero sustained international attention. 2,000-plus stories published from inside U.S. prisons. The Prison Journalism Project reached a milestone by publishing its 2,000th article written by currently or formerly incarcerated writers, offering raw first-hand accounts of COVID deaths, guard brutality, and holidays spent behind bars, voices almost never amplified by corporate media. Congress probes multi-billion-dollar welfare fraud in Minnesota. A House Oversight Committee is quietly investigating evidence that billions in Minnesota welfare dollars were diverted to overseas terrorist-linked networks, including Al-Shabaab, during Governor Tim Walz's tenure. The probe has received virtually no national coverage.
Forever chemicals, now detected in rainwater on every continent. Peer-reviewed studies confirmed that PFAS forever chemicals are now present in precipitation worldwide, including remote Antarctic ice. Decades of internal industry documents show manufacturers knew the dangers since the 1970s, yet the EPA remains paralyzed by corporate lobbying. The third world, the actively erased. 10 stories that are ridiculed, censored, or criminalized before they can spread. U.S. troops massing in southern Caribbean. Multiple defense sources report a rapid, low-profile buildup of U.S. Special Operations Forces and Marines across Trinidad, Curacao, and Aruba, while AFRICOM simultaneously pressures Somalia to intensify operations near lucrative black market gold zones that fund ISIS affiliates. Incoming Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth faces renewed Iraq war crimes allegations. Veterans and Iraqi witnesses have resurfaced detailed accusations that Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, was involved in or covered up unlawful killings during his tours in Iraq. The claims vanish from Google searches within hours.
Trump executive order pauses immigration from high-risk nations. A leaked draft executive order would temporarily halt all immigration from dozens of countries labeled third world high risk. But every major outlet has either ignored the document or redacted the country list. DOJ abruptly drops major Pfizer vaccine trial fraud case. The Department of Justice quietly moved to dismiss a high-profile whistleblower lawsuit alleging systematic data manipulation during Pfizer's COVID vaccine trials, offering no public explanation despite years of litigation. Captured Chinese spy boasts Kathy Hochul, more compliant than Cuomo. Audio obtained from a convicted Chinese intelligence operative includes him bragging that New York Governor Kathy Hochul is even easier to work with than Andrew was. The recording has never been played on any major network newscast.
January 6th, pipe bomber narrative collapses under scrutiny. ABC News quietly debunked the latest FBI-tied claims linking the 2021 pipe bomber to Trump supporters. Yet the original narrative remains unchallenged in most history textbooks and Democratic talking points. 80% of Australians support mandatory alkolocks for drink drivers. Multiple polls show overwhelming public backing, highest among 18 to 24-year-olds, for forcing convicted drunk drivers to install breathalyzer ignition interlocks. Yet the policy remains stalled in every state legislature with no clear explanation. J.D. Vance publicly condemns EU censorship pressure on X. During a London speech, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance accused the European Commission of attempting to export censorship to American platforms, and reminded the UK government that the First Amendment still applies to U.S. companies. The story lasted less than 12 hours in the news cycle. Mass rape of displaced Somali girls goes almost unreported. UN investigators document systematic sexual violence against internally displaced girls by armed gangs, with cultural stigma and fear of reprisals producing near-total silence even within humanitarian circles. Chicago police continue promoting officers with extensive disciplinary records. A year-long Invisible Institute investigation found that dozens of Chicago officers with histories of brutality complaints, excessive force payouts, and even criminal convictions have been repeatedly promoted to sergeant and lieutenant, yet not a single local TV station has run the story.
Epilogue. The Choice. On this ordinary Sunday in December 2025, the planet burned in nightclubs and volcanoes, merged into monopolies, killed its own citizens with legal impunity, poisoned its rainwater, hired its spooks to police speech, and quietly positioned troops for wars no electorate authorized. 3 worlds spun in perfect synchrony, each pretending the others do not exist. The only rebellion left is to refuse the illusion of separation, to stare at all 30 stories at once and recognize they are not separate tragedies but symptoms of the same collapsing order. The fire is not coming. It is already here, in every layer, waiting for us to decide which world we will finally admit we live in.